Hello everybody, this is Abraham at North Shore Computer Services. What we got here today is a recovery, a successful recovery on the hard drive that had a bad motherboard, or I should say something went wrong with the motherboard. You can see this hard drive has a marking here and a different marking here. This is the donor hard drive with that marking. And this is the original board from the bad hard drive. The donor hard drive and the bad hard drive are the same hard drives. As you can see, the donor has Apple logo on it, so they are identical in every way except the label. We can see that the motherboard number is the same. Let me get different glasses here. Can't see the numbers. All right, it is PWB 2060701444-004 revision A. You can search this board by this number, and you can find a donor board or a donor hard drive. So these two are identical. They're identical in almost every way except there is a little writing on this board. There isn't on this, so they're not 100% identical, but 99 probably. All right. What happened with this board originally, I thought it was the diode blew. So I took out the diode. There's the space for it. It wasn't it. I took out this transistor or microchip. That's some kind of power controller. That didn't help. I mean, I replaced it. And I also replaced the motor speed control or motor controller. That didn't help. So there is something wrong with this board, either in here or I don't know where. It just doesn't get recognized, doesn't get powered up. It seemed like a simple thing to find. If you get no power on the board, you just check the fuses, check the things that could blow, and I couldn't find the one that was causing the issue. Maybe a capacitor, I don't know. Most boards have a BIOS chip on them, which makes replacement transplanting boards easy. This is the Seagate hard drive, and Seagate has this chip right here. That's a BIOS chip that has all of the information about encoding on a hard drive and head alignments. I don't know what else they put in that BIOS, but replacing this chip on a donor board will make your hard drive work. And I believe I have a video about that. So what I ended up having to do is get this chip off. All right, as you can see, well, the markings have been heat removed, but this chip is actually from the donor hard drive. This is a good chip, but I had to get it off the donor hard drive, or I should say remove from the donor hard drive, and transplant this chip into a donor hard drive to see if my hard drive would start responding. And it actually did. That was quite an amazing achievement. It is not a super difficult procedure to replace that chip. I'll show you the machine I use, but let me show you that it actually is recognized. Let me get these wires out. So this one's connected to this computer. It's a Mac hard drive. It's thinking. And there you have it. There is the hard drive. We can double click on it. And I was able to get, oh, you pesky wire. I was able to get the data off of it, and everything seems to be hunky-dory with the hard drive. There's quite a bit of stuff on it. All right, let's remove that, and I will show you some more things. All right, this is the internals of a hard drive. There's me. Basically, there is, well, this one only has one disk, but they may have multiple disks, but they always have two heads. So this there is a head on this side and there is a head on the other side. As they make the hard drive at the factory, they low level format it, and they do the alignment on chips on heads, and that alignment gets stored in the BIOS, this chip right here. Also, encoding could be stored on there. Most of the hard drives have encryption on them that can be controlled, and I'm sure that is the chip that controls all that information. Let me show you the machine that I use. This is the machine that I use to detach chips, and you have to program the soldering and desoldering instructions into it, and then you just remove it with the vacuum pick, and you also place it back using the same vacuum pick. This is where the board goes, right here, and you lower this part. It basically uses heat to warm up the solder so you can remove and transplant the chips. It's not the easiest thing in the world, but it does the job fine. All right, so what I want to say? I want to say that finding these donor boards is not a very difficult procedure. You just have to make sure you get this number correct. Before you start looking for the donor, make sure that you troubleshoot the drive. And number one is, if this diode is bad, anytime you connect it to the power, it will actually short out your power. And if it shorts out, that usually is the culprit. If you remove that and it still shorts out, then you got bigger problems. Next, if you have the beeping noise, like one of the videos that I have, that may be that the heads are located in a wrong position on the disk. Let's look at here. This particular hard drive doesn't really have an issue with that, so even if the heads are here, it'll still spin. You can see that the way this one's designed, it doesn't stick. But other hard drives, usually high capacity, this is a low capacity hard drive, only 80 gigabytes. It really has no problems, and it actually works. I used the board as a donor for something else, and this hard drive actually has no problems, aside from the fact that I don't have a board for it. So that's what you're facing if it's beeping. There may be an issue with the motor itself. That issue is a lot harder to diagnose because you do not want to open the hard drive under any circumstances. There's only one reason to open a hard drive. If you hear the beeping coming from it, it's like beep, beep, beep. That usually means that the heads are stuck on the disks. It is not advisable, but possible. You can peel off these stickers and you can possibly see the head. Do not move the head through this hole. You will damage the head. You will mess up alignment. There's another sticker in here that you can use to move the disc a little bit, but I wouldn't advise that either. If you hear the beeping noise, if it's very important, the data on here, send it to the lab. If it's not important, then you can open it up and move the head to either off the disc or to the center. Like this parking position is towards the center. Other discs have it off. It actually comes off the disc. There should be a special parking hardware there. All right. Once you have those things out of the way, then you can start ordering the board. You can also hear if the hard drive motor is moving by wiggling like that, and you can hear sometimes, you can hear that little scratching. That's the head moving over the surface of the hard drive. Sometimes you can hear that. So if you can determine that the motor on a hard drive is okay and the heads are not stuck, then we're back to the circuit board. Another thing you can do, if you have a donor hard drive like I did here, you can transplant the board, the whole board without modifications, to the broken hard drive. Now, you will not be able to access the data. The encoding and whatever they have on this chip that causes each hard drive to be unique is not going to allow you to simply put one board onto another hard drive or swap the boards and access the data. You cannot do that. But that does not damage the hard drive. It simply sees it as a foreign mismatch or whatever, but it doesn't actually write anything to the hard drive that will damage it. And that will test your motor, your heads, everything. It just will not show you any information on a hard drive. And that's what I did. When I found the hard drive, I swapped the boards, and this one did power up. That was a good sign. The motor was okay. The heads weren't stuck. As you can see, I did not broke any seals. I did not have to open the hard drive. Everything was done just on the board itself. This is the donor board, and I got the original BIOS chip with whatever other stuff they have on here, transplanted, and the hard drive started working. If you're in the business of data recovery, this kind of data recovery is, unless you send like a lot of energy to the motor coils, or you burn something on the heads. There are some chips inside, and the way that you can, there's a chip right here, and I believe there's a chip on the head itself. I don't know what those chips do, but if the donor board, I don't know how the donor board could be bad. In other words, if you're so clumsy that you were able to send whatever wrong energy to the motor or the heads, and you burned them out, I mean, you really have to be don't do that if you feel like that's going to happen. At any rate, you order the donor board and just plug it in without doing any modifications and see if your hard drive is going to spin. I guarantee you won't be able to get any data off unless it's an older hard drive. I mean, really old, like 40 gigabyte hard drive. You can get the data off because they weren't implementing probably encoding or something on it, or encryption. The newer hard drives all have that, and they're all unique, and you can either scan the BIOS and that's too much, and you have to have specialized equipment for that. But transplant the chip. If you have this situation, this is really easy. All you need is just a soldering iron, or preferably, something like this. So this one is fine for that. But removing this big chip, yeah, you need a more serious machine for that, because that machine heats it from both sides, and you can control the temperature, and you can carefully lift it. The one that has possibly contacts on the bottom, the BGA type, those are even more headache to work with. But this is totally doable. Chips are replaceable. And if you can determine that your hard drive, well, if it's not clicking, if you have a clicking, the circuitry won't help. Circuitry most likely is okay. That's a head crash or head degradation. Also, if your hard drive has fallen, if it fell down and it started clicking, no, you would not be able to recover that. Then you're dealing with the head assembly. You can find another head somewhere from a donor hard drive and you can replace it, but it's very chancy and very iffy that you'll be able to get anything off of it, because the head alignment isn't going to be correct. I mean, we're talking about such tiny adjustments to these heads that this work is too precise to get these heads removed and everything transplanted and hopefully work. It's probably possible if it's a single disc like this one. If it's a multi-disc unit, you got to have really specialized equipment for that. In any case, this repair was so the donor hard drive was about $40, and we have recovery. If you're attempting to do this yourself, first make sure that the data on it you can part with. In other words, if you mess it up, labs will not take it. They will take it if you don't open it. All right, you can tell them that, you can tell whatever. They don't care about the circuitry. They'll charge you $3,000 for recovery, or maybe more. I don't know what the current rates are. But if you open it, if you open the hard drive, the labs will not most likely take it, because then you're dealing with dust, then you're dealing with fingerprints and whatnot, and labs are just not willing to deal with that stuff. I mean, depending on the price, of course, but I'm sure they're going to jack up the price at least double. Hopefully this helps somebody. If you like the video, give me a like, subscribe, enjoy, and save money.